Welcome to Mallett and Michelle on Dripping Springs, hosted by me, Michelle Lewis, and Steve Mallett.
Hey there, Michelle.
Hello, Steve.
How are you?
I'm flustered.
Why?
I don't know. I guess it's just like in the air. It's hot. It's cold. It's cold. It's hot. It's raining. It's not.
There is nothing consistent about the weather these days for sure. I thought we had our last cool day about 3 weeks ago, but then Saturday came. It was nice and cool in the morning, and now it's raining outside.
Yeah, I think I'm recovering from Founders Weekend also. So.
Oh, which is coming up, but you're predicting that you're going to be.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. I love Founders Day, but it
I'm
beats
pre-gaming for Founders.
Yeah. Hey, I got to give a plug to James Fenelon, who was on, 30 episodes ago, talking about his first book. He dropped me off a copy of his new book yesterday, Angels Against the Sun, which is a really nice looking book. I haven't started reading it yet, but it's about the liberation of the Philippines during World War II, which was helped by the paratroopers of the 11th Airborne Division. So
how interesting. I know he was talking about it when he was here and all the research that they go into.
And Mel, who's a good friend of ours too, she's a former English teacher, I think, and she is his best editor.
I always feel self-conscious.
You can get it on Amazon.com.
I feel self-conscious when I text her or email her.
Why is that?
Because she's going to pull out her red pen on me.
I know. Every article I ever wrote for Dripping Springs Elite, I would send to her and go, Mel, can you proof this for me, please?
Well, who's our guest?
Our guest today is Rick Scheen, who owns LandWest Design Group and Pecos Outdoor.
Awesome.
Yeah, which makes, at this point, I think their only product is this really cool table, which we're going to find out about. But
no, it's not their only product.
Well, okay.
Okay, yeah. They have other stuff.
Okay, well, we'll talk more about that. But Rick's going to come in here in a little bit. Have you been hearing any of these commercials on the radio for home title theft protection?
All the time. I hear it when I listen to AM radio. I think it's like when I'm listening to, I can't think of what his name is. Anyways, I do. I hear it all the time.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember who's the big celebrity that pushes that all the time. It's not Dave Ramsey, is it?
No, it's Newt Gingrich is one of the big ones. I don't think Dave Ramsey does. Who's the other
I can't
conservative
remember who it is.
pundit? What's his name? Anyway, there's a couple of very high-profile celebrities pushing it. Turns out it's kind of a scam.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, it's virtually impossible in Texas to do what they say they're doing, that people are doing, which is to draft up a fraudulent deed and then get it notarized and then record it and have it. It'll be a cloud on the title. And the idea that the thing that the commercials say is they're going to steal your property and then take out a mortgage against it and borrow, maybe get a home equity line of credit or sell the property. And almost every transaction in Texas is run through a title company. And that if you run it through a title company, that just prevents all that stuff from happening. And they're not the home title theft protection, which they call a shield, which it's not a shield, doesn't cover you for fraudulent mortgage applications. So if somebody goes and fills out a mortgage application in your name, doesn't protect you for that, which, I mean, there's so many protections against, preventing somebody from borrowing money in your name. But the FBI says that in 2020, so people are worried about home title theft, but the real big problem right now is wire fraud.
Oh yeah.
Gosh, which is huge. Yeah.
We've experienced that in our own office.
Yeah. And we've taken a lot of training, and all the title companies, they have all kinds of safeguards against that right now. So in 2017, there was $56 million worth of wire fraud in the country. And in 2020, the FBI says it's up to 213. So it's almost quadrupled in whatever that is, 6 years. Yeah. So be more aware of wire fraud than people stealing. Wire fraud. Wire fraud is the big culprit.
It happened to my son when he was buying his house, and they sent him an email asking him to send his wiring instructions to this, and he sent it to me, and I said, no.
Once you kind of know what you're looking for, it's pretty obvious how to protect yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, and most real estate agents will tell you, nobody from the title company is ever going to just call you and tell you to wire money out of the blue. You're going to be expecting it. But there's a couple things you can do outside of paying for this home title shield thing, they call it, which is, I think it's just a scam. Many counties allow you to sign up for fraud alerts for free. I'm not sure about Hayes County. I was going to look into it. I didn't have time, but they'll just send you an email if there's a document recorded against your account. You can lock your credit at all three major reporting agencies. You can actually periodically go online and check your deed records using a free deed search, so you can see if anything's been recorded. And make sure your notice of appraised values, which, we all got those. Yeah. We were just talking about it. Make sure they come to you and your tax bills come to you. If you don't get your appraised value and your tax bill, somebody else might have gotten it. So there was maybe a name change or something, or a deed fraudulently recorded. Does that mean they
have to pay the taxes then?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm changing my name to something else.
If you don't get those, make sure you call the county and ask them what's going on. If you get a payment book or some kind of mortgage thing in the mail and it's not anything you recognize, make sure you call that company right away, because obviously they're under the impression that you are refinancing or whatever. Yeah. Check your credit report periodically, which is you can do for free now. And if you have properties that are vacant, make sure you check them. Yeah, if you own a property on the coast and you go down there like once a year, you probably need to go check it more than that. Make sure somebody didn't take claim of the property and move into it with some fraudulent deed. And always use a title company when you buy or sell property.
Title company.
A trusted title company. We've got some good ones here in town. But anyway, it's kind of, I hate that these sort of trusted celebrities are pitching these crappy things that really have no value. And you can do it yourself. You can check this stuff yourself. And it's really not happening in Texas anyway. I don't know if it's happening in other states, but it's not really happening in Texas.
Yeah. Well, good to know. Good information, Steve. It's always good to get some good information like that out there. There's some
real estate news for you right there. But you and I were talking last week about retiring. You know, I just turned 60 in February.
What's
surprise.
That?
Yeah. And I think I've gone back and forth. I think I've decided I'm never retiring.
No, do you remember I told you about my dream I had about you a couple of years ago that you died and you still showed up?
I still came to work. That's pretty much going to happen, Michelle. And so it started me thinking, because I've sort of had this plan for the last 10 years or so, when I got into my mid to late 60s, what would retirement look like? And I've decided retirement's not mandatory. You don't have to retire.
No, but I also have come to learn, because my husband's 60 years old, and it is very convoluted just trying to figure out Social Security and
kidding.
So 62, 65, 67, 70, what year you were born, and you have to sign up for, is it Medicare,
Medicaid, and then there's the donut hole thing, the supplemental. I know, it's like,
I'm so confused.
It's almost like you enter into this phase of life where you have all these bureaucratic nightmares you got to work your way through. I guess
it's better than the alternative. You're just dead and you're not taking anything.
That's true. So. Yeah. But, there's some benefits to actually not retiring. If you don't retire, you can keep up on the latest technologies. That's one of the things I read about the most, is that most people, when they retire, how quickly they lose track of, the latest things going on in the world. There's no reason for you to know about, not that are important, but, Instagram or Chat GPT or some of the things that are happening. You'd have conversations with somebody that's 45 years old and they'll be saying, hey, I was trying out this Chat GPT thing. And you'll be like, I don't even know what that is.
My father-in-law is 89 years old, or 88, 89 years old. And he still works. He runs the Rose Palace in San Antonio, still works. And I think he's on our kids joke, I think he's on his 7th or 8th Facebook page, because I don't know if he keeps forgetting
forgets the code. There's one downside to getting older
He's
is you
still
forget
working
stuff.
and he doesn't know his passwords.
I think my most common saying these days is, "Have I told you this already?"
Yeah.
So,
Well,
have I told you that already?
You and I do this a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. There's some other things about retiring. A lot of people regret retiring. As soon as they retire, within months, they regret it. And they run out of projects pretty quickly too. You think, oh, I'm gonna retire. I'm gonna do a garden. I'm gonna fix up the kitchen. I'm gonna, whatever. I'm gonna straighten out the garage. Well, that stuff goes pretty quickly when you don't have anything else going on in your day.
Doesn't that? I would think it also depends on what type of job you're doing. So if you're an air traffic controller and you're 80 years old, or I don't know, maybe the president of the United States, maybe you should retire.
If you can't put together
a string of consciousness.
Yeah, a sentence that makes sense, you probably should.
I mean, I just think
be the president of the United States.
I think you should love what you do, and even if you're not still working in the industry that you were working in for 30 years, 40 years. Keep yourself busy.
I read an article in the Wall Street Journal, and a lot of people, what they did in their primary career, they get to retirement age and they don't do that same thing anymore. They might stay in the same field, but they do a different thing.
Todd wants to work at Home Depot.
I've said that before too. But then I was there the other day and I saw some people working there, and they didn't look very happy. And I thought maybe this wouldn't be for me. But, there are some other things. Intellectual stimulation's hard to get in retirement.
Yeah.
If if you're not coming in the office and you're brainstorming things and you're not running into people in the hall and talking about, whatever happened last night or in the news, it's harder to get that if you're retired. And it is hard to get started again if you retire and decide that you want to go back to work, but it's not impossible. You can do it.
Maybe you just have a whole other second career and you just kind of jump out of what you were used to doing, what you were trained to doing, and then do something different.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I know you and Holly really like to hike, and I could see your retirement down the road as you guys, like, I don't know, living at some state park and being like tour guides.
We talked about moving to Bora Bora and becoming like guides in Bora Bora.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
I think I might, I got my USA Triathlon coaching license a few years ago and didn't really do a whole lot with it. I coached some people to, one lady to her first try and some other people on their swim, but I might get into coaching because I really enjoyed that, and I can yell at people.
You're really good at that.
Yeah. But there's some things about also, people's perception of what is old has also changed too. And I pulled up
isn't that the truth?
Yeah. So here's some things really interesting about geriatric world record holders. There's a 105-year-old woman that recently ran the world record for the 100 meters in 1:03, which is really slow, but damn, she's 105 years old. 95-year-old woman set the world record for 5K, which is 3.1 miles in 59 minutes, which again is slow, but 95 years old.
I'm sorry. I'm going to be the 105-year-old woman smoking cigars, drinking Dr. Pepper, and
sitting out of the porch yelling at your neighbors. Get off my lawn.
That's right. I'm not going to be running marathons.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There's a guy, Ed Whitlock, just ran the Toronto Marathon in 3:56. He's 85 years old. I ran a marathon a couple weeks ago and I didn't run 3:56. He's 25 years older than me. Yeah, I know. Yeah, there's a 108-year-old Indian marathon runner, Fauja Singh, just did another marathon, 108 years old.
How pissed would you be if I started running a marathon and my first marathon I ran faster than you?
I'd be pretty pissed. I'd be pretty upset. Yeah. There's an 86-year-old woman, Sister Madonna, has done 46 Ironmans.
Oh, wow.
I haven't done an Ironman since I was in my 40s,
I've never done an Ironman, so there you go.
Yeah,
I win.
Yeah. So anyway, if you're out there and you think, oh, I'm too old, I can't do all these sports anymore, what's your excuse? There's a lot of people doing them. So
well, that sounds. I don't think you're ever going to retire, Steve.
No, I don't.
I really don't.
I don't like the idea of that.
It sounds boring to me. But so we're going to have Rick Scheen on, and he's an inventor. Mm-hmm. And I thought that it would be kind of a cool idea to look and see what some Texas inventions that we have produced. I know I've talked about a couple of these before, but I'll just run through some of them really quick. And some of them you'd actually be really surprised. Handheld calculators. Did you know? Yeah.
Invented in Texas?
Texas Instruments invented
that's right.
in 1967. Here's another one I thought was interesting. 3D printing. Yeah.
Invented in Texas.
A UT alum, Carl Deckard, in the 1980s. He was a graduate student at that time. It was originally called Selective Laser Sintering, and he called it SLS, but is now evolved into what we think of 3D printing. Here's one of my favorite Texas inventions, stadium nachos.
Oh, God.
Yes, it was invented in 1976 at a Texas Rangers baseball game.
Responsible for the death of thousands.
Oh, it's delicious. I could eat Texas Stadium nachos forever. Talked about this one before, but I still think it's relevant. Liquid paper.
Really?
In the 1950s, Betty Graham, she was a secretary, and she invented it in her kitchen, and it was originally called
Actually,
Mistake
some of this
Out.
stuff's been around a lot longer than I would have expected. If you'd asked me about 3D printing and liquid paper, I would have said that's all stuff that happened in the last
Pretty
10
relevant.
or 15 years.
I think there's an
years.
urban legend that, and it may even be true, I don't know, but that one of the monkeys, that's his mom. The monkeys, the singers.
Oh, really?
But I don't know if it's true. I didn't look that up. Okay, so that was funny. Mary Kay, obviously, the pink Cadillac. I mean, that was invented in Dallas. We all know, and a lot of people don't know this. This is an Austin original. Whole Foods.
Oh, really?
In 1980, 25-year-old John McKay and Renee Lawson opened Saferway. And it was in response to Safeway that had opened here in Austin, which I've never seen a Safeway in Austin, but this was in 1980. Right now, they have 400 locations throughout the world, but except San Francisco, because they just closed that one because it's a shithole.
And he's a billionaire now. He's sold out to Amazon.
Another favorite for my stomach is Fritos.
Born in Texas.
1932 in San Antonio. How about this? I'm going to chase my Fritos down with a Dr. Pepper from
I knew that.
1885 in Waco,
1885.
Texas. Well, have you ever been to the Dr. Pepper Museum in Waco?
No, I've driven by it.
Oh, you got to go. It takes maybe 2 hours tops.
Yeah,
It's
I would
super.
like to
It's
see
really
that,
fun.
yeah.
But in 1904, they took it nationwide. We all know also another Austin original, Dell Computers. In 1984, Michael Dell, and also another UT student, he sold computers from his dorm room. Created that. How about Ruby Red Grapefruit? That is something near and dear to my heart also because it's an RGV Rio Grande Valley invention. It was discovered by mistake. It was some mutation, pink grapefruit mutation.
I don't even know if I've ever had a pink grapefruit.
Oh, ruby red
They're
grape.
sweet or are
Oh,
they?
it's so good. It's very, it's just bright red. It's yummy, 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 yummy. Frozen margaritas.
I believe that.
1971 in Dallas. Marino Martinez, I think is how you say his name, Marino. He converted a soft serve ice cream machine, and he was trying to copy what 7-Eleven was doing with their slushie. And everybody was telling him, oh, you can't freeze alcohol. You can't freeze alcohol. And I guess with the combination of the lime and the tequila and boom, frozen margaritas. Okay, this one's funny. Silicone breast implants.
Oh, God.
Two Houston surgeons in the 1960s invented them. The story goes that one of the surgeons, Frank Giro, squeezed a plastic blood bag and said, hey, that feels like a boob.
Oh, God.
And they created it. The rest is history.
But you can't, they don't use silicone ones anymore, do they? Wasn't there like...
I don't know. I mean, because there's like silicone saline and there's like something totally different now, it's another substance. But silicone, for a while there, they were only letting you do silicone if you had already done saline.
Okay.
So I don't know, because silicone, I guess, was leaking. But so... The silicone
born.
boob. Yeah, Texas born.
That feels like a boob.
It feels like a boob.
There's a title right there. That feels like a boob.
This is a Dripping Springs invention. Well, Driftwood boys. They lived in Driftwood, but they went to Dripping Springs High School.
Yeti, I know.
Yeti.
That one's wild to me, and we're going to talk to Rick here in a few minutes because one of his products, this table, is what you call very expensive, air quotes.
Yeah.
But I remember when Yeti came out, people were saying, nobody's going to buy a $300 cooler, man. You're losing your mind. And now I would bet it's the best-selling cooler in the country right now.
Oh, yeah. Millions and millions of dollars. They invented it in their dad's garage, and it was kind of in response to, they're big outdoorsmen. I would love to get these guys on the podcast.
If you're out there, I can't remember their names, but if you're out there.
It's Roy and Ryan Cedars.
Yeah, reach out to us.
Yeah.
We'd love to get you on the show.
And then, of course, what we have on today, the Pecos table. And that's going to be the new Yeti of tables.
Designed and made in America.
That's right.
So, hey, well, let's take a little break and get Rick in here and hear what he's got going on.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Mallett Integrity Team of real estate professionals. They are based in Dripping Springs and bring you over 45 years of combined experience helping people reach their hill country real estate dreams. When you want the best in town, call them at 512-829-2062 or look them up at mallettintegrityteam.com. And now, here's Steve and Michelle.
Welcome back, Rick Scheen. Thanks for being on.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so you're the owner of LandWest Design Group and Pecos Outdoor.
Yes, sir.
Now, that's a pretty big difference there. Landscape architect to inventor slash manufacturer.
Yes, it is.
We known you originally as the table guy, and then when I started doing a deep dive, boy, I'm pretty friggin' impressed of your background.
Yeah, it's
random,
to say the least.
Well, I discovered that you were on the cover of Architectural Digest.
One of our projects was many, many moons ago. Yes,
that's quite an accomplishment.
So where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Bossier City, Louisiana.
Bossier City.
Yep, it's the lesser half of Shreveport, across the river.
The lesser half.
The lesser
That's not saying much.
The people of Shreveport call it Bossier Get Down City. Yeah.
And you went to LSU?
I did go to LSU.
How'd you end up in
Which is a crazy story.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us about that.
I mean, I grew up one of the, biggest rednecks in a redneck city, town, place, right? I wanted to be a professional bass fisherman.
Oh.
And so I'd already figured it out. I was going to get me a welding rig and put my welding pit on the backside and work when I wanted to, make enough money to be the next Kevin Van Dam. And I was dead set on that. Until my senior year in high school. A buddy invited me to a party at LSU it was like April of my senior year. Like, I don't even know if I was going to graduate, honestly. And I went down there and got a dose of that and came back and said, "Hey, Mom, I think I want to go to LSU." She's like, "Oh, honey, let's go."
Yeah.
I don't think I had the credits. I know I didn't to even graduate. And so my mom was just a saint, and Lord knows what she did.
Mamas will do that.
The next thing you know, she and I are driving down there. We stayed in a Motel 6. I mean, you had $29.99, whatever rooms, right? And we had like $30, but if it was two people, it would go over that because they kind of suck you in. So my mom laid in the front seat of the little car, and I went in and got us a room so she could get me in LSU.
You smuggled your mom in.
You owe it all to your mama.
Buddy, do I?
Yeah.
If you knew the half of it.
Yeah.
I owe a lot to my mother.
So how'd you end up in Texas?
Went to LSU, which is crazy. So I said, "I'm going to LSU, Mom." She said, "Cool." I had back up my sophomore year in high school. I was working cleaning windows on these custom homes, like with a razor blade and vinegar and newspaper, whatever. And I'm cleaning these windows, and I see this guy pull up in front of this huge, in my mind, just like this mansion. I grew up in a little small house. And this guy pulls up in a Jeep Wagoneer with the wood sides. I thought that's what, high rollers
That
were.
was
High
living.
rollers.
And I'm like, it caught my eye. I'm like, man, these freaking high rollers pulled up. And he comes walking up, and I'm sitting there cleaning windows, and he's barking out some orders and stuff, and I don't know what he's doing. I'm watching him, and he goes back to his Jeep, whatever, and this BMW pulls up, and I'm kind of watching him. I'm like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
And they're talking. He goes, "Hey, man, you want a Miller Lite?" And he said, "Or beer?" He said, "Sure." He handed him a Miller Lite Pony. They sat out behind the car sitting there, and I'm just like, what are these guys doing? Yeah. And then he's like, "Hey, I got a 145 Teton Palmetto. You want to play?" And he's like, "Sure." He grabbed his sticks, threw them in the back of the Wagoneer, and rolled off. And I'm like, wow, man.
That's the life.
Who is that? And I asked this guy out there that was raking the yard. I said, "Hey, man, who is that?" He said, man, that's that gosh damn landscape architect.
No.
And it just kind of stuck in my head. Didn't think anything of it. Fast forward my senior year, my mom's like, well, you got to have a major. I'm like, what's that? So like, I don't know. Here's a syllabus, flip through it and see if you can find something. And I just nonchalantly just flipped it open. And it said landscape architecture. And I'm like,
that's the one.
And she's like, oh, honey, you love outdoors and stuff. I'm like, oh, whatever,
Yeah.
And so I became a landscape architect because of that.
And the rest is history.
And so you graduated from college and started, did you
7 years later. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a 5-year curriculum. I joined the military when I was a sophomore for all the wrong reasons.
What branch?
Well, I decided I needed to leave town today. And so I went to the Marines and they said a month. And I said, nope. And then I went to the Army and they said a month. I said, nope. And then a buddy said, well, you ought to go try the Army National Guard. They're taking, went in there and they're like, well, blah, blah, blah. We can get you out pretty quick. And so I took the test, whatever, and I actually did well on it. It was shocking if you knew my education. And he said, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I want to leave now. He said, well, you could do engineering and da-da-da-da. And I'm like, how can I leave now? He's like, the only thing I'm leaving now is an infantry. Like, I think you have to have a 60-something on the test, which is the easiest to get into, right? Like, let's go. So that was a Thursday. Monday morning, I'm flying to Fort Benning, Georgia, with my fraternity hat on and my shotgun belt and my duck head pants and my tree-torn cool shoes, my pants rolled up, party shirt. And reality kind of smacked me upside the face. Yeah. Yeah.
So is that how you ended up in Texas? Did you get stationed in Texas?
So I get out of the Army, decide to maybe try to put effort out in school. Didn't really. All of a sudden I had friends start graduating and leaving me. And I was like, man, what am I going to do? So I put my head down a little bit more. I think the military gave me a little discipline.
Sure.
And crazy as it sounds, one of the guys asked me to start a company with him while I was in school, which why he had picked me, honestly, I don't know. He was a rock star, Tommy DeBlanc. And we started a company together in school.
Landscape
architecture. Yeah. We graduated, did that for 2 years, and he was highly connected. We were crushing it. Huh. And we partnered, and then he put together this thick partnership contract that said I could vest 5%, and then in 5 years, in a year, I could vest another 5. And I said, well, I'm out. It was 2 years. I'm like, I'm not doing that. And so I was sitting there and the professor called me one day. I'm sitting there, I had some little landscape jobs. He said, hey, I heard you weren't working. I'm like, yeah, Max Conrad. And he said, well, there's a job in Austin, Texas. I said, I got a buddy in Austin, Texas, a fraternity brother, and I've got one in Dallas and a couple in Houston and one up, San Antonio. So I thought, well, that'd be a fun trip. So I went and bought the book, Knock 'em Dead. It said, build a resume and a portfolio. I did it. It said, don't leave an interview without a job offer. In the book, Knock 'em Dead, which this is 1992, 4, something, right? So I went to 2 interviews in San Antonio, got 2 job offers, and was just almost, because I'm competitive, like, check. And I rolled in this office in Austin, and the guy interviewed me, and he just blew me off, and he's like, which kind of irritated me. So I'm like, hey, what's the deal? He took my resume, and he's like, I'll make copies if something comes up, the whole line. And this guy comes walking by, he looked like Al Pacino, and he had a golf club in his hand, kind of walking by. And he goes, hey. I'm like, hey, man. He goes, what are you doing? I said, interviewing. I said, you want to work here? I said, yeah. So tell Nancy you start. When can you start?
It was the boss.
I didn't know who it was. He said, tell Nancy. He said, when can you start? I said, Monday. It was Thursday. And I had a girlfriend, a house, jobs, a dog.
And you're still living in Louisiana?
No, I'm fully living in Baton Rouge.
Oh, man.
Like, I'm invested. I had projects and, little small projects I was working on. So he's like, when can you start? I said, Monday. He said, see you Monday. So I left there, called my mom from Michelle on Burnett Road. Said, hey, Mom, I'm moving to Austin. She goes, oh, honey, that's wonderful.
Oh, your mother.
And so I went back, gave my dog away to a really good dog trainer. It was a
gave my dog away, broke
up with my
girlfriend.
It was an awesome
Sounds like
lab.
a country western song.
It was an awesome lab. He ended up winning 2 field trial championships. He was a 1-year-old, and I gave him this guy named Wendy Winburn. But broke up with my girlfriend, had some cash, did 2 jobs during the night, Friday night, Saturday night, packed up a U-Haul, moved to Austin.
Wow.
Didn't show up on Monday because we went to 6th Street.
Oh, geez.
So it's kind of embarrassing that I didn't follow through on what I said, but it's the truth.
Did you get the job anyway?
I already had the job. He hired me right there on the spot. And so going back to that guy that made a copy of my resume, he came back and he's like, hey, thanks for coming by, blah, blah, blah. So I think I'm working here. He said, what?
Sounds like a scene from The Office.
He said, what?
Who are you?
I'm like, man, some Al Pacino looking dude just came rolled through and said I could work here. And he's like, Rex. I'm like, and then somebody in another room goes, yep. And he's like, God, threw out a couple of expletives, words.
Did you ever ask Rex why he chose, just based on walking by in the hall, why he chose to hire you?
I've never asked him that. Yeah. I mean, he's He's about as crazy as I am.
Sounds like it. Hiring people. He's just walking by.
He's special. He's a rock star.
You still keep in touch with him?
I do. He's basically like my dad.
Yeah.
And so I talk to him a lot.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. He's one of our Pecos investors. He's mad at me right now. I hope he's listening because I missed a meeting with him on a land deal, and he got really talked to me like I was 5 years old.
Oh, geez.
So yes, but we're tight. He's about 12 years older than me. I remember him one time saying, that guy, he's about our age. And I remember thinking, our age?
Yeah.
I'm 28.
Yeah.
You're old.
Do you ever think about what your life would have looked like if that guy walking by with the golf club hadn't just taken a chance on you?
I think everything happens for a reason. Yeah. God has a plan. And I've never questioned anything. There's a bunch of stuff that a lot would question. Yeah. I've gone down a rocky road.
Yeah.
But no, I've never thought about it. Everything that's happened happened for a reason.
Yeah, a lot of people get really worked up in life about things they can't even control, and I think things do work out the way they're supposed to. Sometimes it's hard when it does, but they work out the way they're supposed to.
100%. Yeah. All of those things, those trials and stuff that I've been through, just make you tougher, stronger.
Yeah, agreed.
Better.
Agreed.
Right? Yep.
Yeah.
I guess kind of full circle, I was reading an article that Austin Monthly did on you, and they described your projects as beautiful, creative, detailed, high-end, complex, and harmonious with the land. And it told a story in just that one little sentence, and to kind of hear where your origin story is, and to now see all of these accolades that you've been given. I kind of did a little deep diving on you, and it was really interesting to me. Like you when you first walked in, you said, "I'm kind of a squirrel," and you're
I
kind
said
of
I'm
all
a
over,
mess.
You're kind of all over the place.
I said I'll chase a squirrel.
You'll chase a squirrel, But man, you have some amazing kind of accolades. I mentioned earlier that you were on the cover of Architectural Magazine, and you did a huge project with Lance Armstrong.
Did back in 2004. Mm-hmm.
Was it his property out here off of?
We actually that was called Mirasol at the time, but the project was over there in Tarrytown.
Oh, okay.
Over there on 35th Street. The first project. He started somewhere after the 4th Tour de France, something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Do the math, but yeah.
Yeah.
Was he very hands-on when you were out there designing?
Yes.
To nauseam?
Yeah. I mean, he made, let me back up. We keep talking about me. The reason it's called LandWest and not Scheen is I'm blessed with just some awesome human beings that they're the ones that make it happen. Mm-hmm. I mean, I have ideas, and I'll tell people ideas are about 5%. Like getting it done is the other.
Sure.
Is the proof in the pudding, right? And so we learned a lot on that project. He fired me 5 times.
I think Steve's fired me like 5 times
today.
He literally hired this guy out of San Antonio, had this big cowboy hat, and I'm not going to say his name, awesome guy, to manage me. Can you imagine somebody trying to manage me?
Yeah.
Bless his heart. Good Lord. And so he did it just to control me.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he did it just to put his thumb on me. I know him well. He's moving back. He's listening.
And now you've
Lance is moving back, or you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, he hadn't returned my text, but I'm supposed to be doing some project for him. I've done several.
Yeah, I know. It's he does that We Do podcast, which is huge. And they've just coming out of the spring classic cycling season. And I bet they've been just crazy busy.
I don't know.
He does that with JB, right? Is JB on that with him?
He has, Johan Brunel, who is his director at the time when he won all those Tour de France directories, comes on as a guest, and then he does it with, he's going to hate me for forgetting his name. It'll come to me in a second, but another former pro cyclist. But that's a really popular show. So.
I've never listened to it.
Yeah.
I hope he hears that part too.
Yeah. So the landscape architect thing, you've kind of got a niche. You're
100%.
Yeah. So tell us about that niche.
I mean, I just almost can't do things what I deem as incorrectly. And the older I get and the better we get, LandWest get, what we deem is correct and best is just the scale keeps going up and up and up and up. And so the only people that really want something done to that level of detail they're usually individuals that are wanting art. Yeah, they're not like, hey, I need landscape, right? I need special. And so just so happens, going back to the God thing, I'm in Austin, probably the fastest growing, hottest cities in the world, period. And there's a lot of people that want special. And so that's what we do. And there's enough individuals here that we stay busy.
Yeah. What makes it art?
Buddy.
Wow.
You know, what makes it art? I think we have an innate ability to take the land, to take the architecture, to take the client's wants and needs. Hopefully they have great taste. And for each project, we don't have a style, right?
Okay.
We go in there and we take what's in front of us. We take those elements and we come up with, I've never been in a box, so it's something outside of the box. We come up with ways for it to work perfectly. You drive where you should drive. You park where you should park. You walk where you should walk. We don't need signs telling you what to do. You just innately we're doing a 170-something acre project out here in Driftwood. And the idea is that you never wonder where to turn, where to stop, where to park, where to walk. It says, hey, meet me at the horse barn. You just go there. So there's millions and millions of little details and thoughts that actually make it special.
And it's stuff that the average person doesn't think anything about when they're on a property like that, and everything just works so seamlessly. You don't even think about that.
If you have to stop and think about it, we did something wrong.
Yeah.
And so form follows function. And so it all has to work seamlessly.
Yeah.
And then all the little details and little special details and the stone details and the planning details and what type of gravel and what texture of the gravel, and are you barefooted, not barefooted, and where do you walk, how do you walk, why do you go there, what do you see? Every window is a huge piece of art.
Yeah.
So when you look out a window, what do you see? So we think about when you look out a window, I want to see beautiful art.
Yeah.
I don't want to look out a window and see the backside of whatever, right? And so you take that level of thought times a million, right? And then you take it and spread it over a project. It may take us 2 or 3 years to design it only.
Wow.
And then we build it. I
was going to ask you that. So you guys actually do the design and the construction.
You have to.
Because otherwise those guys cut corners.
Like I told you earlier, that the ideas are 5% of it, right? Now, if they're bad ideas, they're 0.00001% of it, right? So there's millions of disparity between 0 and 5, right? So if you take a 5 in ideas and you poorly execute it, you get somewhere between a 5 and 100, right? So you get a 55.
Yeah.
Right? Our goal's 125.
How did COVID, if at all, slow you down?
It didn't slow the work. It didn't really slow the demand. It slowed our work ability, where we could work, where we had people picketing, where if we had permission through a mayor or a council or a control committee or whatever, we had political elements that were trying to force what we could do and not do. And that was the toughest part. We
Sounds
handled it.
ridiculous.
I don't
now.
understand that. So you had people, you were still trying to work during COVID and people were picketing you and telling you not to work?
Yep, 100%. And the most egregious time, my guys didn't tell me about it.
Were you working on a public project somewhere?
We only do residential.
So,
and so we were on people's homes. We were in Rollingwood working on a project
outside.
Yeah, we're doing exterior on a home,
yeah.
and we had another project around the corner, but I couldn't see it, and we weren't really outside on the one I was on. I was just supervising, but we were out there, and while I was at this one job, apparently there was this big, these neighbors, these neighbors out, this guy with a big cocktail drunk, screaming obscenities to my guys and using slurs at my guys. And
man, we lost.
I wouldn't have gone well.
We lost a lot of civility during COVID because, man, some people lost their freaking minds about something. I run a lot, and two of the ladies that I run with got mad at me because I wouldn't run with a mask on. Like, and they won't even talk to me anymore. And it's been 3 years.
I'm not going to go down that road.
Yeah, we'll let that one go. So, have you ever been called to do to somebody's landscape that was they used another architect and they designed it and it came out like crap and you guys had to fix it? And what's the biggest mistakes?
We've had everything you can imagine, especially when we had to take work.
Yeah.
We had times where there'd be a design that somebody else did, and then we would try to install it and so forth. Even back in the day, we didn't have our own installation ability or build ability. So every single one of those, anything you can imagine happened, and it usually didn't go well. A lot of it because of me, my obtuse personality. But the designs and ideas usually weren't, not that they weren't beautiful designs necessarily. They just didn't have the content.
Okay. And what kind of so is, like, when you see people that do their own, what's the biggest mistakes people make, do you think?
Do their own, as in like
Michelle and I, go, hey, we've got this house and we're fixing it up or whatever, and we want to do our own landscape. What kind of stuff do you see? I'm just thinking of our average listener out there. What kind of things they'll run into when they're trying to do a landscape?
I mean, it's pick a profession, right? If you're like, man, I think I want to be a brain surgeon today, and everybody laugh, right? It's like, okay, well, we're talking about landscape and brain surgery, right?
Yeah.
Well, from my perspective, there's that much information within my group.
Yeah.
Is within that group.
Sure.
Right. And so I think I'm just going to, have surgery on my son and do it myself, or I'm going to,
I'll watch a YouTube video.
Yeah. I got this. And so, I mean, gosh, what do they do right? I mean, and no offense, but it's, I obviously have a chip on my shoulder because I feel like we bring a lot to the table.
Oh,
so,
obviously.
So they're just, at the end of the day, people are like, why does your grass look good on your projects? Well, we think about the grades, we think about the soil, we think about the sun, the wind direction, what type of water, where's the water hit, when does it hit, when does it soak in, how's it soak in? We make sure we buy the best of the best grass, and it goes in the best situation with perfect grading, perfect dirt, perfect. And you take, $100 a foot of thought, effort, and energy, and then you lay perfect grass on top of it. And then you maintain it perfectly, and then it looks good.
Sure.
How does your yard look?
That's a great question.
Like they always say, you're a plumber and you have a leaky faucet. So.
One of my guys talked me into using, I won't say his name or the type of grass that's in my yard, talked me into using something against my better judgment, because I thought, well, I'll be a guinea pig. And so it looks great, but I don't love my grass.
Well, I want to ask, because I feel like Dripping Springs downtown really misses the mark. And
everywhere has the ability to be special.
Right. And this is your home, this is where you're raising your kids and stuff. And I think that, like, the triangle, it's one of the first things that people see when they're driving in. And, if you had to kind of give the city of Dripping Springs any pointers on what we could do for that area, it just... Think about what's happening. Yeah, scrap it. Think about what's happening this weekend with Founders Weekend. The mass amount of people that are coming, that are seeing Dripping, some of these people for the first time, and that's their first impression.
Yeah. What would you do, Rick?
I mean, the truth is, it's not possible, right? With all the minds and political powers and influences. I mean, I'd go through and pick out anything that I would say should stay, whether it's a historical building or home or whatever with character and or trees, and anything that's not should go. Put it back there, put it somewhere else, right? And let's come in and let's put some, I would say, historically sound architecture with extremely stringent guidelines and design it, build it correctly, just like we would one of our projects. It wouldn't look like one of our projects. It'd look like one of the cutest, coolest towns in the state of Texas. But we're talking about $250 million or $500 million, right? And a lot of different owners and a lot of different things. So it's really not possible. That being said, I think you could go and build a new town center, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And say, okay, we can't fix this, right? We make it a little better or whatever, but it's too late, right? You giant parking lots everywhere and stuff, and go and make a special place that way or this way.
Yeah.
You know, take Driftwood, for instance. I mean, there's really not much there, but what's there is cool.
Yeah.
We could go and make that the coolest little town in Texas if we wanted to, right? Because there's a lot to work with, and there's not a lot of bad that has to go away, right? Right here, there's a lot of bad that would have to go away that people make a lot of money on or have a lot of money in. And so it's not an option.
So what I hear is the biggest obstacle is money, coming up with the money and the desire to get the work done.
Oh, and I mean, and all the different owners and groups and fun, real estate,
sure.
Maybe we could
companies
just start at the triangle. Just start there.
Yeah,
let's just
I
do
agree.
something.
Yeah, Rick, let's talk about Pecos Outdoor. How'd you go from being a landscape architect to being an inventor / manufacturer?
I always just go with the flow of what my gut tells me to do, which means I've done a lot of stupid things, some good, some bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I've rolled around this earth, hunting, fishing, cooking, doing whatever I do, trying to do it at a high level. And I was going to do a fish fry for, I believe it was a Young Life group, and a buddy and I promised that I would clean the fish, bring the fish, and fry the fish because I'm Louisiana and I can fry fish well.
Yeah.
And so I went out to Lake Travis, caught these little small Guadalupe bass, whatever, the good eaters, right? And come rolling back to the house, opened up my garage and quickly looked around my garage and thought, I don't have anything. And I thought about my outdoor kitchen, kind of. And I knew that wouldn't fly.
Right.
My kitchen sure wouldn't fly.
Yeah.
Jumped in the truck, went up to my office. It used to be on Thomas Springs, and thought that my guys had a work table out back. They'd locked it up that day.
Oh, jeez.
So now I'm like T-minus whatever, haul back to the house, jerk the Yeti out of the back of the truck, right, with these fish in it. Freaking dump the fish out on the concrete, wrap my legs around this nasty, wet Yeti, pull out electric knife, and I'm sitting there thinking, this is stupid. Yeah. Right, what am I doing, right? I don't like doing things incorrectly. I mean, and I do a lot, but I don't like it knowingly doing stuff incorrectly. And when I finished, it was just, it bugged me that just happened. Like, what am I, 40, whatever years old, and I don't have the ability to do something like this. And I looked, I started thinking, I'm like, man, if I could take this lid off this Yeti 65 or 75 or whatever it was and put it about this high in the air, man, that'd be cool. Because it was a good work surface, right? And so I sketched something up. In my mind, I was going to take it to Roy / Ryan, and they were going to think I was the smartest guy that ever fell off the turnip truck or whatever. And I showed it to Roy, and I think he thought it was a good idea, whatever. But whatever season of life he was in, it wasn't something he was interested in. Which he didn't do anything wrong, but I used little tidbits of negative as fuel. And so I'm like, I'll show you, And so I started designing on it. We have architects, engineers, so forth in LandWest, and my guys started sketching, and we started doing and going. And it kind of just sprinkled along for a couple of years. And a good buddy of mine, Gard Mayer, who he and his son started a company called Bruce Bolt. Super cool, batting gloves. I used to help coach his son in baseball, whatever. But he's in the consumer product business. He helped me, talk to this guy. I knew they kind of kept me going in the general direction. Yeah. And about 3 years later, I was talking to my CFO, and I was like, man, how much money do I have in this? And he told me, I think she at the time, and then it was shockingly more than I thought. And I thought, man, I mean, I've got, looking back wasn't a lot of money in this, and thought, man, I probably ought to just go ahead and keep going with this because why waste that amount of money?
Sure.
Right. And one thing led to another, and I got deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and learned and at some point a couple of years ago, it was just no turning back then in my mind.
Yeah.
Like I think a lot of people would say, stop. Right. But I put my head down and I'm hell bent on.
Did you patent the final design?
We probably have 5 patents as we sit right now.
I love your quote that you did on Fox Business. It was an article that you wrote, and you said, "I run a business and I believe in Made in America, come hell or high water."
Yep.
Tell me about your belief in this Made in America kind of movement and why it's a passion for you. Why are you so important about that?
Well, when I started doing this, like everybody said, "Oh, rotomolding, you got to do that. You got to do that in China," or whether it was cast, metal or injection molded, whatever. It was like, you've got to do it. You got to do this in China. And at the time, I'm like, well, I don't want to do it in China, right? I want to do it here. And it was more of like, I just wanted to do it in America in the beginning. I didn't realize what I was asking for, because it's extremely difficult to do a lot of these things here in the United States, but it's not impossible. There's awesome, come to find out, there's awesome manufacturers and people here in the States that do wonderful work.
Yep. And
so I started doing it in America for the reason that you would assume I want to do it in America. Mm-hmm. But the more I got into it, and really a year ago started realizing I think I can do it better in America. And the reason, my construction background of doing LandWest, we do all of our stuff in house, so I can go out to the jobs and go, "Hey man, why'd you do it this way? Could you do this? Could you change this? Could you?" And so the communication that I could have with these guys up in Ohio or Pennsylvania or wherever they are, right? Iowa, is where a lot of these manufacturers are. I could have these one-on-one conversations like, "What could you do this? Could you tweak that? What if we put the plastic in this way? What if we use this plastic?" And really started developing and making it better. And I think being able to have that communication, that clear line of communication, and I look somebody in the eye and say, "Hey, when can you do this?" They say, August 1st. Well, I mean, we hold them to that, right? We did do some things overseas in the beginning, and that kind of communication and confidence in what somebody can do and can't do is kind of it's luck. Like if they don't do it, what is your recourse? Like you get mad. What are you getting mad at?
Well, then also with all the supply chain issues, most recently overseas, and
100%,
and things are sitting on
100%
on trailers
or
and
boats sitting out there in these these cargo ships sitting out there for containers and stuff. And so, I think it was going back to the God thing. That a container used to cost X, right, for full of whatever. Now it costs Z, right, and so the cost of doing things in China has gone up. The difficulty of doing things in China is air quote easier, but better. Like better is in timing, better is in quality, better is in quality control, quality is in, if I tell you I'm going to ship you something on Tuesday, by gosh, we're going to ship it to you on Tuesday. Right. If I have to bring it to you, right?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I hate going to Walmart because everything there is made in China, and it's just crap. Everything they sell is crap.
It used to not be, though. Remember how he was so adamant?
If you buy a tool in Walmart, you can expect to use that tool 1 or 2 times, and then you're going to throw it away.
I mean, the reality is you can make something awesome anywhere with enough energy, money, and just ambition, right? And so there's people, there are people in China that are great at what they do and can make awesome things.
I'm sure, right? But that's not, a lot of Americans don't want that stuff.
I'll go down that road for an hour, but it's different.
Sure.
It's just different, right? And consistently, at the end of the day, when I first started doing this, the original designers, product designers were like, they came at it with what I didn't know at the time was the mentality, let's make it 1% better than it could be, or, let's make it 1% better and 1% less expensive, which is you're trying to find whatever is the best thing out there. If the best thing's junk, then we're making it 1% better than junk and 1% less or 2% more expensive. Right. And that's not how I think of doing things. Let's do it the best we can, find out what that cost, and then go sell it for that. Give or take, right? Yeah. And so that's how, now looking back, that was, I think everything's done for a reason, but we did that and we overdid this egregiously.
Well,
this thing is a beast.
But
right?
you had a business model that, we were talking about it a little bit ago. When Yeti came out, there was a lot of people that said nobody's going to ever buy a $300 cooler. You're nuts.
I was one of them.
Yeah, so I was too. And now it's got to be the best selling cooler in the country. People do want quality.
They do, and that is a trend that started. Well, Yeti was one of the founders of that, right? Mm-hmm. And so, by the grace of God, we've got that trend. Whether it's Yeti, Kuiu, pick a product, right? That people do want that. That's what I want. Mm-hmm. Like, I want something that when I pull it out, whatever it is, whether it's a knife or whatever,
you want
it works, right? And it's solid. It doesn't let me down. Because if I take off work and go to South Texas and I have 3 days to do whatever I'm doing, probably hunt a big deer, I want all my gear to like be there for me. Not maybe
expendable.
I don't like maybe. I don't like sometimes or kind of. Like, it sort of works. Like, what is that? That sounds like, who wants to do that? Who wants to sort of do something? Like, I guess people do, but I don't.
Well, and I think there's a lost thing in America where we used to buy products that could be handed down, something that, your family would get when you passed on. And we don't. It's a disposable society now. People buy cheap clothes. They buy cheap cars. They buy everything's
cheap guns, cheap watches, cheap
knives. You're right. And
they were handed down to me, right? Most of what was handed down to me was not solid.
Yeah,
right.
It's the world of IKEA nowadays.
Yeah, it's true.
For sure.
It's
Everything is just
it's crap. It does. It fits a purpose, but it doesn't do it very long or very well.
What's next for Pecos Outdoor?
We want to be the outdoor table company of the best in the world, right? When you think of outdoor working surfaces or outdoor workstations, we want Pecos to be like the best.
Yeah.
Right. And so our overall mindset is to do whatever necessary to ultimately integrate these Rockstar tables, work surfaces, workstations into the market, right? And so we've started off with our first unit that we've probably upgraded 20 times since the first one that came out. Like, if you look at the first one that somebody bought and you look at the one today, they look the same, but the quality's $250 less. I paid $250 more than I paid the day we first made them.
Wow.
Making it right.
Yeah.
Right. And so we're going to move this current table through the year. We've got a product coming out. We call the Paloma. It's a cutting board work surface that can live on an ice chest. Ultimately, could live on the tailgate, could live wherever. But when you go somewhere and you're like, man, I need a cutting surface or a work surface. That's not a table, but it is a work surface. Yeah. In this economy, with the kind of where the country is right now, I think being that this current product's $700 and we're talking about a 26% margin, which is not what the world, we can't go retail with it and so forth, right? Because our COGS are so high. We thought coming with a solid, good product that's at a lower price point, but still solid Rockstar, but it's not the beast that we have now. And so we're going to do that. A cool koozie we call Covey as of today that's going to go along with it. That's coming out. But then there's 2 table designs that are just absolutely they blow this one away. I hate to say it. No, they're better. We're working with these engineers, out of Missouri maybe, called 1-3. They do John Deere, of the engineering design of John Deere, and they freaking get it.
Oh, is that right?
And so we've designed another table that's about like this, but a little lighter, a little easier, a little cooler, just a little, everything's a little better, Still probably won't hold quite as much, but it doesn't need to hold 3,000 pounds, right?
Sure.
But who's going to put 3,000 pounds on a table, for gosh sakes?
I wanted to ask you how hard it was for you the first time you propped this table up at a Texas A&M tailgate.
Texas A&M. That's funny.
I read your bio and your kiddo, your son goes there.
So going back to my LSU days, we used to have a home away series with Texas A&M when I was going to LSU, and they just beat the fire out of us at RC Slocum days, and I just didn't like them at all. I mean, because they beat the crap out of us, right? And so how do you like somebody just every year just humiliates you, right? And so I come to Texas, Austin, and already have this kind of like, I don't really like those Aggies, right? And I'm around a lot of
Longhorns,
haters, right? And so I just kind of got on the bandwagon with them, like, yeah, let's hate on those Aggies. And long story short, my son, because of some of his buddies are A&M, he's like, I think I'm going to go to A&M. I'm like, really?
Your heart
like,
sunk.
and he was on the boat with me. Like, we were both like, we don't like them because they beat LSU in that 4 overtime series. What was it, 4 or 5 years ago, which was just excruciatingly painful. And there was these Aggies
that was
that
a
were
very
right
good game, by the way.
It's a miracle. But next thing you know, my son's going to A&M. I go over there, and man, those are good people.
Yeah.
It's something else. That school is something else. I tell you, there is no other school like that. I feel like the camaraderie, I feel like it's one of the last conservative colleges left.
Well, I was going to ask you that, Rick, because
that's what I'm feeling.
Yeah, you mentioned that in your bio that it has the conservative values that you believe in. So what are those? What are those conservative values?
Man, well, I believe in the Bible. You know, Jesus came down here to die on the cross for our sins. And then there's a lot that goes underneath that. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. So I believe in every single print that's in the Bible. Right?
Yeah.
And so you take that and roll that through. Man, that's kind of my base.
Yeah.
Right? That's our Dr. Spock's handbook on raising children, doing things correctly, getting up every day and getting on your knees and praying and doing the best you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, you know, my son's in a men's group over there. There's a fraternity that's a Christian fraternity that several of his buddies are in. There's just a lot of good men over there.
Yeah. I'm very excited that you've chosen to spend a little part of your day with us today, given how busy you are, like all over the place.
You were talking about maybe thinking about getting in the horse business.
I know, saw that too. Like
you're all over the place.
I'm a plate spinner.
Yeah,
that's so funny you said that because I almost said that earlier. You got a lot of plates up in the air.
More than is healthy, honestly, and it's something that I really work on.
Yeah,
it's one of the challenges is trying to not do things that burden my family, my health.
And right? No is a complete sentence.
And so, long story short, it's another long story and it's interesting, but I grew up with horses. I grew up riding horses, hunting up in Arkansas. Loved horses. Like I wanted to be the outlaw Jesse Wells, like straight up. John Wayne.
I was going to ask you think you're a cowboy at heart?
Buddy, I was born to hit the ground about 1850.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I have horses now. And so, which is a whole nother level of complexity. I mean, from scorpion bites to I had one with colic surgery, and I'm learning about that.
Wow.
One right now has just got hives all over because there's some allergy, and it is a full-time job.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
like I needed another full-time job.
We've often learned that in the real estate side of our business is that when people move here and they want to, I want to have horses, and it's like, it's not a dog.
I know, yeah, because people that come from out of state, they came from Chicago or California, they're like they see it in a magazine or they see it on TV, and they think, they're just going to sit out there in the pasture and be all pretty, and it's not going to be like that.
Tell them to call me.
Yeah,
I won't steer them away, but I'll give them a big dose of reality.
Yeah,
it's more than I anticipated, honestly, and it's another reason that I'm having a little bit of a hard time keeping up.
Yeah.
It's once you get them, right?
Oh, I know. I know.
I'm a horses now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm over here trying to run LandWest, and I don't ever like saying trying. So, cross that out.
Yeah.
I'm out here running LandWest and Pecos. How well, I guess the TBD, right?
Yeah.
But then I'm also running horses.
Yeah.
So that's what my son thinks he wants to do, like be in the world of horses, which is
like breeding horses, racing horses, or
reining horses.
Reining horses.
If you've seen Yellowstone or The Last
yeah.
Cowboy, that's what a lot of that is.
I saw you had, when you came in, you had a vest with the 4 6s on it. So
that's my vest of armor.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a company called Schaefer. They make everything in the United States. If you see Rip on Yellowstone, that's what they're wearing.
It's all Schaefer.
It's solid.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
It's amazing to me how we gave up on that so easily. You used to be able to buy like a pair of jeans and you could wear them for 20 years, Now it's just, you
still
buy
wear,
them,
you wear your same blue shirt.
I do.
Over
I'm not today, but
I think it's coming back. I think that's all coming back.
I think you're right.
I mean, I know it's coming back in certain sectors. Now the whole world won't probably go down that road, but that's okay. That's why they make vanilla and chocolate, but this is better ice cream, I think.
Yeah. I think it's a shame to me when I see all these boxes from Amazon piled up on people's porches. And you just,
my porch.
Well, but you just know a lot. I mean, a lot of it's staples and we all need that stuff, but a lot of it's just junk too. It's just crap.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
It is. And even when you get on Amazon, I mean, you have to be a detective to try to snuff out.
You do. Michelle and I discovered that. Yeah, you order something and you think it's something, but it turns out to be something completely different.
I've made that mistake in the Airbnb. I order something and it's like, oh, it's going to be this big, and it comes back and it's like 2 inches
4
by
inches
2
by
inches.
4 inches.
Rick, I think that when your final chapter in life is written and they sit there and they describe you, who you are, you're an inventor, an entrepreneurial, a father, a husband, a mama's boy, but you're also a man of God. And it has been a real pleasure to be able to get to know you and be introduced to you, and what a treasure you are. We're very excited that you're at Dripping Springs. You're raising your kiddos here in this area, and we're lucky people to have you here.
That's kind of you to say, and it's humbling, but it's not about me, and I'm just doing the best I can.
Yeah. Aren't we all?
Just get up every day and just try to be a better man.
I'm telling you, man, aren't we all? Yeah. I'm in the same boat. So
I'm work in progress.
Yeah.
It's not where I am, it's where I started.
Amen.
Yeah. I've gotten 3 or 4 really good titles. Work in progress might be a good one for that too. But Rick, people can find out about Pecos Outdoor at pecosoutdoor.com. But man, I really appreciate you spending this little bit of time with us.
I enjoyed it. It brings clarity when you go through all this and think about everything. And so it's good to stand back every now and then and look at it and think about it and smell the coffee.
And reflect.
It's good to reflect.
Yeah. Very blessed.
Yeah.
Very, 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 very blessed.
Well, man, good for you. Well, thanks for coming on, Rick.
I did want to say my daughter's now thinking about going to either Tennessee or
volunteers or Aggies.
So I got to give a shout out. I just sent her a picture of a new vehicle that I'm not going to tell you which school. So
if she picks, she gets this.
Yeah,
giggle Aggies.
There you go,
or something, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's good visiting with you, Rick. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. I appreciate it, guys.
This show has been brought to you in part by the real estate pros at the Mallett Integrity Team. When you're looking to buy or sell, you need them on your side. Why settle for less when you can have real estate done right? Give them a call at 512-829-2062 or get more info at mallettintegrityteam.com.
You know you like us, so go now to Apple Podcast or Spotify and leave us a review. Why don't ya? We love your feedback and comments. Email us at malletandmichelle@gmail.com.
Thanks for putting up with us.